The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
John Solomon is a regular on this show now. He was on with Katz and Cosby 1,000 times, and I heard him. And I said, Justin, this guy John's good. And Justin goes, yeah, he's good. He's on with them all the time. I said, let's book him. And I think he's been on now 3 times in the last couple of weeks. He's back today. John, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. My whole family loves your show, by the way.
Well, I love your whole family. Thank you. I love you, too. Thank you for telling me that. That means a lot to me. You know, John has millions of followers. He's a really smart guy, and you listen to him for 10 minutes, you know why people love him. Let's get right to Iran. I just had KT McFarland on moments ago, but I want to get your take, too. I've been saying, and no one loves Trump more than me. I was with him again last Friday. I love him. I adore him. He does nothing wrong in my eyes, but we're stuck. That's the word. People hate using that word. They hate it. Yeah. They'll use stalemate, other words. We're stuck. That's why we keep talking about more extensions.
That's a term no one wants to hear, quagmire. But
quagmire, right. So what term would you use?
Well, listen, I think there's stuff. One of the things you have to watch in a moment like this is that what we see publicly may not be what's really going on behind the scenes. And I think that's one of the big things I'm learning in my reporting. So right now it looks like we're in a quagmire. Iran looks like they want to wait us out. They play the cat and mouse game. They surface. We bomb them. They stop for a few days. Behind the scenes in the private negotiations, the Iranians are sending a very different signal in the private chats with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and that is, we are tired, we're exhausted, we don't have the ability to fight you long term, our economy is in a very difficult shape, but we're bifurcated. Our leadership is scattered across the country, hiding because if we talk on a phone, you kill us. We need to get consensus, but there are a growing number of civilian leaders, crazy mullahs, that feel like they've had enough of this conflict and they want to make a deal. President Trump is incredibly cognizant that Iran has a 47-year, now 48-year record of being untrustworthy on every issue. However, the signals that his experts on the front lines are getting, he thinks it's worth letting it play out a little while. He's not going to let it play out a long time. He's going to let it play out a little bit. The intelligence they do get when they get intercepts is that Iran is beaten down, their economy is really worried. Even the IRGC, with all of their rhetoric, is starting to feel the pain. In fact, some of the IRGC has fled up towards Afghanistan. Gives you a sense that they might be exiting the country to get out of Dodge. So I think the president wants to let this play out, but he is not in any way wet behind the ears and about to be taken for a bad deal. He will only make a deal if the 3 principles that he has put out there are met, which is no nuclear program, you get rid of the uranium, and the Strait of Hormuz has to be open. Now, he is willing to say Iran can have control of the Strait of Hormuz. You have to leave it open. It has to be a free and open passageway. So that is the Iranians know that those are 3 non-movable ideas, and they still have agreed to the 60-day ceasefire. So what we hear publicly and what we see with our eyes is menacing, but behind the scenes there are signals that they would like to make a deal. President Trump will play that out, but he is not afraid to start slinging missiles. And I think the next time he goes after Iran, if Iran acts badly going forward, I think you'll see the deployment for the first time in American history of laser weapons from space. You want a little shock and awe, Iran? We'll show you shock and awe. Those weapons are able to melt down into the ground in big ways and cause massive damage that the world has never seen before. So if Iran wants to test the next level of American weaponry, they might get a bad taste of it soon. I think in the short term, the president feels the signals in the private setting are legitimate. He's going to let them play out, but he is not going to make a bad deal. And one of the things that was very important yesterday with Secretary Bessent, he said no sanctions relief. No sanctions relief until we have the uranium and the nuclear program is ended. So if they were not giving away stuff like Barack Obama did, you're going to have to make a major concession that the world has waited for 2 decades. Before you get any sanctions relief. I think that's the 4th now line in the sand. Iran's aware of that, made this deal, So let's see where it gets. I think we should give the president a little bit more time. Iran is unbelievably untrustworthy, but I do think they're more beaten down than the media has led us to believe.
I'll give him all the time he wants. I'm not the problem. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for a Republican come November. I'm going to vote for J.D. or Marco come November. I'm not the problem. You said more than once during that amazing little talk just now. It was great. It was detailed. It was beautiful. That he's willing to wait it out. Okay, he's getting killed. His approval rating is under 40% in a lot of spots, especially with the economy. He has said, I don't care, but he has to care because we cannot afford to lose the midterms, and the longer he waits this out, the more bleak that looks.
Yeah, I think you saw the markets react yesterday to this thing. Quite frankly, the economy would get worse if we had to sling another round of missiles. So he's aware of that. He's willing to do it. Not afraid to do it. But I think what you saw yesterday was a significant easing of oil pressures. If the Strait of Hormuz can be opened in the next 10 days, as this agreement gets set up, the oil prices will come crashing down. By the 4th of July, they'll be back down in the low threes and maybe even into the twos in some places. That will send a signal to the world that the president delivered what he said. We got to get rid of the military capabilities. Peace brings a dividend. The dividend will be cheaper gas prices. People will go up. When you look at some of the polls that have Trump post are below 40%. The Republican sample is often down around 25, 26%. Nowhere near what it was in the sampling that you would take before a presidential election. So some of these polls are juiced downward to make President Trump's approval look worse than it is. When you look at the baseline of his base, he's in a very strong position. And perhaps, in fact, CNN had an amazing story the other day that President Trump may have the single largest swing of Republican support of any figure in modern American history. So the base is still with him. How you measure public sentiment is often a result of how you sample. If you bring down the Republican sample and you got 26% Republican and 33% Democrat, which some of these polls have, of course Trump's going to be looking under 40%. In the polls I've seen where the samples are much closer, he's at 46 to 48%, where the sample is more normal. And I don't think his approval ratings are nearly as bad. And you look and say, hey, well, he must be weak and lame duck, bad thing. He just pulled off 2 Senate incumbents. He literally threw out 2 Senate incumbents. That doesn't happen in American history very often.
No.
One of them lost by 30 points.
Listen, there's no question that in the party, he's the man. He still is. MAGA is alive and well in the party. Thomas Massey, see ya. Bill Cassidy, see ya. 5 lawmakers in Indiana, see ya. So, and watch Steve Hilton do the same thing in California.
That's right.
But that's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the American people, the voters. They don't have the same confidence as some of these Congress races are. When it comes to November, I'm worried about these other places. He can't go out there and advocate for every single candidate. Maybe he will across the country. But I hear you. Let's see what happens. He fixes this. The numbers will come down, and we'll take it from there. You're a New Yorker, and I've had this conversation with every guest I had today. Certainly you deserve to have it, John Solomon. When the mayor says, I'm not marching Sunday, okay, you hate Bibi? I think you're a moron, but fine. You hate Israel? Fine. But you know what? This parade, as I said to KT McFarland, Brian Kilmeade, and others, it's not in Tel Aviv. It's not in Jerusalem. It's on Fifth Avenue in New York City, where you won, you moron. You won here in New York City. So how could he possibly use Israel as an excuse not to march with Jews in New York?
Well, listen, he can't do so because his political views are exactly what we have always reported them to be. He doesn't like the Jewish people. He's distrustful of them. He has said it for years where he is. And so we judge people more by their actions than their words. And I think this is a loud action by the mayor, one of many. When you look at his 25-year rise from young man to this, it's clear that he has these views, and that these views are also predominant in his party. They're growing on the far left of the side. You got a candidate with a Nazi tattoo running in one state. You've got anti-Semitism protests and acts of anti-Semitism going on every day. And even beyond that, you've got Democrat lawmakers trying to help our enemies like Cuba get around American sanctions. The far left of the party is trapped in an ideology that is extremely fringe and far from middle America. And Mayor Mondami continues to make statements with his actions. It doesn't matter how much words he speaks. His actions speak volumes, and I think New Yorkers have figured him out already.
2 more minutes. I know you got to run, John. I want your take on this governor race, and Hochul comes out and starts talking about the 93 championship Knicks, which never happened. That's fine. Listen, like I said a couple of days ago, if she really was going to lower taxes and crime was no longer an issue when she was fighting with Andrea Stewart Cousins and Hasty up and all, and I wouldn't care that she doesn't know anything about the Knicks. She's a liar. But none of that is true. So she's just a liar on every level. What are the chances today you give to Bruce Blakeman?
Listen, I think he's going to look a lot like the Zeldin campaign, which was so much closer than people ever imagined in 2022. You have a really remarkable dynamic going on. People are voting right now in New York by leaving the state, by leaving the city, by departing. That is usually the largest sign of distress that a state is under. When people start fleeing by the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands, the millions, you're seeing businesses start to pack up. They don't trust this whole idea of tax, and spend. And I think that the electorate is ripe for an upset. It's an uphill upset. Blakeman's going to have to execute a perfect strategy, particularly get out the vote. But you see what Spencer Pratt is doing in L.A. right now. A far-left city, a far-left state can easily be flipped by a Republican with the right messages. And I think the playbook for Blakeman may look a lot like what Spencer Pratt is doing in California. We'll see how that plays out in the next few weeks. But there is a way for a Republican to win New York. And if there ever were conditions, the New Yorkers feeling like we're not New York anymore, this is the year where I think that sentiment is more predominant than any time in my lifetime.
So all hope is not lost, even though the numbers tell us we don't have a chance.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, who thought that Donald Trump was going to be president in April and May of 2024? He was on criminal trial in New York.
Right.
It's all about the execution. And New Yorkers are common sense people, and I think they don't see a common sense leadership in their state right now. They are naturally Democrats, a naturally Democrat state, but sometimes naturally Democrat states decide they want to shake things up, and this could be the year to shake it up. It's all going to be about the execution of Bruce Blakeman, who, by the way, very skilled candidate thus far.
It really is. And look at the job you did out in Nassau County, where it is predominantly Democrat. John Solomon, excellent job as always. You become our guy here. We love you. Thank you so much. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds good.
Take care. John Solomon back on Sid and Friends in the Morning for the third time in about a month. He really is terrific.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?